Chapter 1473, Forward-Facing Colony. Hello, dear readers, it is I, Toli, at your service once again, ready to regale you with tales of my trials and tribulations amongst the collective crafts of the colony. I have to say, it has been wonderful to return to my home in the dungeon, the wonderful fourth stratum. Full of life and light, I think my knees and hips are feeling better than they have in years. Though I still harbor a suspicion that the wonderful mattress the ants have generously given to me, I'll let them know about their donation soon. I'm sure they won't mind, may be responsible. After a few days, myself and the jolly fellows acting as my bodyguards had fully acclimated and were ready, filled with vim and vigor, to attack the days ahead. Of course, we were currently occupying the legendary anthill, the mountain filled from top to bottom with ant monsters, a trading hub and hive of activity. Pardon the reference, there are certainly no bees here. Known all over the fourth. Despite its generally benign reputation and the prevalence of colony-produced goods across the dungeon, there were surprisingly few tourists or visitors here. I was shocked when my dear guide, Amelia, informs me that almost all of the non-humans I saw striding the halls and occupying the guest rooms around us were merchants. But that seems highly curious, I declared as we dangled our feet in the provided swimming pool within our suite. Why wouldn't travelers come here to shop and buy things for themselves at a cheaper price? And it isn't like the hospitality of your ant friends is poor, far from it. I know many old biddies who would love to come and stay for a few days, maybe even a week. And they'd spend good money to do so. In my eyes, I could see a flourishing tourist industry emerging, thousands of people from the Silver City hopping on a cruise to pop in and visit the colony, see the sights, taste the cakes and spend some gold. Despite my grand visions, Amelia simply smiled and shook her head. There are a few reasons why that hasn't happened, and likely won't happen, she let me down gently. There are many trade regulations put in place to prevent anyone from buying directly from the colony. All sales must go through intermediaries, no matter how small. Why? Because the colony doesn't really understand money, even now. I found this difficult to believe, dear reader. They've built so many wondrous things, achieved so much across the dungeon in such a short span of time, and yet I was supposed to believe they can't grasp basic economics. As ever, Amelia, the wonderful volunteer tour guide, could read the doubt on my face. She really is quite the capable girl. I'm half a mind to ask her to be my secretary going forward, readers. She is truly an amazing individual. Why don't you come and see for yourself? She invited me. Now, I am never one to turn down an invitation to see something interesting, as you all know. It's in my name. So it was that we took a brief jaunt through the wonderfully lit and accommodating walking tunnels of the colony to what Amelia described as the trading floor. The closer we got, the more dense the foot traffic became, and I found all sorts of individuals roaming about, from all parts of the dungeon, even the odds office. When we came to the floor itself, it was hard for me to grasp the sheer scale of it at first. It was enormous. A grand chamber, with a high vaulted ceiling, enormous pillars, each carved to depict ants hard at work at various crafts. It was so vast, I felt like a reasonably sized town would fit inside this one space. And the noise, the hustle and bustle is intoxicating to me, as well you all know. There were thousands upon thousands of people down there, creating a bubbling, fizzing chatter that filled the air and sang in my ears. The feel of the place was exciting. All the vim and vigor of a spring market, with a hint of a harder edge, like a Brathian who owes you a favor. Amelia had to lean close to my ear so that I could hear what she was saying as we took a lift down to the trading floor itself. This is where merchants and trade organizations come to make their deals with the colony. Because the volume of goods and services moving through here is so high, it's difficult even for the colony to keep tabs on demand day to day. Merchants devised this automated system that tracks every trade and order being made in real time, adjusting the prices accordingly. What? I said, aghast. The prices are determined automatically. My guide could only shrug, her dimples showing as she smiled at me. The colony doesn't like haggling, and they hate the idea of unfair exchange. The automated system removes both elements. We had to step carefully indeed on the trading floor. There were humans, Karmadok, Golgari folk and even Bruinchi running around like their backsides were on fire, waving pieces of paper and shouting until they were red in the face. At first I had no idea what they were doing, but then I saw the ants working at their desks. With little green shaded caps on, they sat in large banks of desks situated around the room, legs flicking every which way as they took pieces of paper, by orders, I'm told, counted money, received or paid out coin or cores, all the while punching away at a strange-looking enchanted slab to their side. Overhead, a constant ticking sound could be heard as boards shifted and changed, numbers and letters flying all over the place as the name of everything under the surface seemed to pop up, with a price, for half a second, only to vanish a second later as the board changed and another 24 items were presented. This seems like chaos, I declared. This wasn't like the usual neat and orderly solutions the ants seemed to prefer. Far too much shouting and sweaty people in robes yelling at each other. Personally, I think the colony agrees with you. Amelia shouted in my ear, trying to be heard over the din, but they always try to give people what they want. The visiting merchants, particularly the Brathians, seem to love it here. Look over there. She pointed me to the side. Against one of the columns were a group of ants, these wearing a different sort of hat to help identify them, sitting comfortably in chairs under a sign that said, "Hagglers welcome." I thought the colony hated haggling. I demanded. They do. But some traders just don't feel comfortable agreeing on a price if they haven't argued about it first. Does the haggling even change the prices? I thought they were automatic. Amelia shook her head. It doesn't, but their satisfaction levels go up. Again, all she could do was shrug. Chapter 1474, Ant Venturing. Well, I have to say, after an hour or two spent on the trading floor, I was exhausted, reader. Need I remind you, I was described as the indefatigable Tolly in my day. And as long as I can jolly well put one foot in front of the other, it remains my day. It was all very thrilling, reader, and I must say, the temptation to grab my kerchief, wave it vigorously in the air and yell, "Sell," was hard to resist. After watching all those people go mad trying to make a deal, I am ashamed to say I needed a sit down and a cup of tea in a cool shaded area. Naturally, the colony provided many such locations, and Amelia was able to guide me to one without too much difficulty. The girl was a lifesaver. No matter where we need to go, she always gets us there and there was always room for us. Remarkable. Is all of this really necessary? I couldn't help but ask, waving a hand toward the crowded floor, not far away from us. Surely, there is a better way. At least we could converse in a normal tone of voice now. As I understand it, this system largely developed after the implementation of the automatically updating price boards, she explained. With real-time price changes, it became possible to grab items the moment they began to dip in value. Since the colony allows a merchant to sell contracts, they can make an order to purchase 100 tons of colony-grown wheat a year in advance, and if the price of wheat happens to go up, they can sell that contract to someone else for a profit without having to transport the goods or handle the sales. Many of the merchants in there don't handle goods at all, but contracts. I couldn't help but stare. What does the colony get out of people exchanging contracts? She smirked. The little minx actually smirked. Brokerage fees, she replied with overwhelming smug energy. And you're telling me the colony doesn't understand money? They understand economics very well, she assured me, but they don't understand money. The colony is an entirely cashless society. Then what happens to the tremendous profits generated here? I said, exasperated. The colony pours it into various projects. Most of it goes into rearing future generations. A good chunk is used to import things the colony can't source within our own lands. Constructing nests, city development, paying for monster removal, lots of things. The colony needs others to fight monsters for them. I asked skeptically. Many people question many things about the colony, but their success as a fighting force is not one of them. Having weathered numerous waves since their arrival in the dungeon as a new species, across multiple strata, they are clearly capable. Why don't we go there next? Amelia offered, and of course, I accepted. Off we went, wandering to the outside of the mountain to take in the wonderful sights and sounds that the colony had created there. I have to say, it was more remarkable than I imagined. I could spend many a page gushing about the gardens, the dappled woods, the chuckling streams and vibrant life the ants had cultivated on the side of their mountain. I don't know why, but I expected it to be more austere, more utilitarian, but I couldn't have been further from the truth. Art abounds wherever the colony goes, reader, and it was wondrous to see. Close to the shoreline, but a small distance from the flourishing port, Amelia guided me to a large building with a domed roof. On either side, mighty soldier ants had been depicted in glittering stone. They gave off an indomitable and powerful feeling. Dear reader, believe me when I say that when viewed correctly, they truly have a noble and dignified visage. Although, when I looked close, I saw both soldiers were carrying smaller ants, healers, Amelia told me. Those two looked less dignified and more surly, if not downright irritated. Inside the building, the craftsmanship of the ants was once again on display. Glittering light filtered through the windows to play across the intricate carvings, the magnificent tiled floor and the gleaming columns holding up the roof. All around the room, ants sat on their unique chairs while non-ants milled in groups or perused the many boards with organized rows of paper posted on them. This is where the colony commissions outsiders to undertake monster suppression missions, Amelia said with a broad gesture. As you can see, it isn't exactly rare. I could see that it wasn't. There were so many enterprising and strong-looking young men and women that I'm honestly quite shocked I hadn't heard about this practice before. As I looked around admiringly, I spied something that caught my eye. Surprised, I looked a little closer to confirm I did see what I thought I saw. I tapped Amelia on the shoulder and pointed. My dear, why is there a truly hideous-looking centipede sculpture there? I certainly hadn't seen any other artwork within the colony that depicted a non-ant insect of any kind. I could immediately see that this piece wasn't intended to be complimentary. I knew the creature was supposed to be a centipede by its form, but it had been depicted as twisted, diabolical and ghastly. Ugly in the extreme, weak and decrepit, it was shown as pathetic and evil. What I'm saying, reader, is that the ant who carved this really doesn't like centipedes. Oh, that, Amelia said brightly. The colony has an active bounty on centipede monsters. If you bring the core here, the colony will double its value. The statue marks the drop-off location. See the desk over there? Double it. That's generous. What sort of centipedes is the colony wanting hunted? All of them, Amelia smiled. I see. And how many of these bounties do they pay out each year? All of them, Amelia repeated, her eyes tightening, but her smile not budging an inch. There is no limit to the type or number of centipede bounties the colony will pay. In any stratum of the dungeon. Ever. Chapter 1475. The view from on high. After our tour of the docks and the facilities there, Amelia made a final offer that I simply couldn't refuse, dear reader. It had been an invigorating day already, but there was so much more to see. The domain of the colony in my home stratum is a wondrous and well-developed place, its grandeur and scenery are truly awesome to behold, and there is, so I'm told, no better way to behold them than from one of the 2 floating islands that orbit the mountain. The colony fought hard to obtain these 2 floating islands, Amelia said, filling me in on their history as we ascended. Interestingly, the colony uses specially trained and raised pets for the purpose of flying up to islands, so we found ourselves seated in a well-made and comfortable carriage that was carried upward by 2 enormous, sinuous dragon-type monsters. I was quite curious as to why there wasn't a more mundane option. The colony had been very deliberate with its transit methods, usually opting for higher throughput than something like this. I asked Amelia about it, and of course she was ready with an answer. The 2 islands are not open to visitors, she said. I inquired about seeing them, and the colony has allowed you to make the trip. They are mainly military outposts. For the defense of the mountain. My 2 well-armed companions were less than pleased to hear this and objected most strenuously, but I was able to calm them before we landed. After all, it wouldn't do to refuse the hospitality being extended by our hosts, would it? To think that the reputation of traveling Tolly had even reached the antennae of the ants. They must have heard about this travelogue being written and had decided to throw open their doors. How thrilling, dear reader. Perhaps this heralded even greater access to come. Will I eventually meet the queen, revered mother of the colony, or even the eldest? My hopes are up, I don't mind telling you. Nothing gets the heart pumping like a good exclusive. When we landed upon the island, I sprang forth from our carriage, eyes agleam, ready to take in the sights and report them all to you, dear reader. Sadly, my expectations were somewhat betrayed. The islands themselves were fairly sizable, but the surface on which we landed was sadly a little more unadorned than what I'd come to expect from the colony. They carve ants on everything. I was a little taken aback that there were none to be seen, none at all. Almost all of the ants on this island are beneath us, Amelia explained before I could even ask. The tunnels and chambers below are much as you would expect to see. The surface of the islands is used to house and train the non-ant members of the battalions stationed here. Oh really? I exclaimed. How interesting. Naturally, when I heard about these individuals, my desire to meet one ignited instantly. Amelia was initially reluctant, but my powers of persuasion are legendary across the dungeon. Before long, we arrived at a square, undecorated building, so plain it almost looked like a box. The only interesting thing about it was the height of the roof, which was possibly 20 meters off the ground. Filled with questions, I stepped inside, and suddenly many of them were answered. Opening the door, I was hit with a wave of raucous sound that caused my 2 guards to half draw their blades. Amelia threw a hand out and hissed a warning. Don't draw them. It'll be much more dangerous. Inside the room was a mass of feathers, tables and rippling arms. You wanna say that again, mate? I'll say it as many times as ya want, mate. Yeah. And just like that, a sharp fistfight broke out. This particular building was filled with magpie, well known for their cantankerous temper and ability to endure seemingly endless fistfights. The scene was repeated dozens of times around what appeared to be a barracks designed for the winged menace. My two guards were both looking grim, and Amelia was shaking her head, resigned. I didn't really want to bring you here, she said. We can leave before they notice us. Leave, I say. Whatever for? I haven't gotten an interview yet. Oi, old bag standing in the doorway. You gonna close it or what? Yeah, you got no manners. Did ya parents raise you right? Or did ya grow up in a barn? Well, as you all know, I have the patience of a stone, dear reader. It was I, after all, who won the paint-staring competition of the remote, Wind Island folk. However, there are certain things that we, as civilized people, must not tolerate. Insults to my dear mother and father are, I'm afraid, well beyond the pale. Sometimes, it is necessary to teach manners. When the time comes, there is no other option but to roll up one's sleeves and get the job done. Some time later, we were shown out the door. I'm sorry for what I said about ya mum. And you wasn't raised in a barn, but a nice house. I know that now, sorry. Oh, that's quite alright, my dears. We all make mistakes in life. Yeah, I think, yeah. Have a nice day, miss, Tully. Of course, you as well. It was very nice of them to see us off at the door, and so politely. It goes to show that the light of civilization will shine in even the darkest places with a little effort. All it takes is a chipper attitude and a little elbow grease. Amelia, I had to say, holding up my hand as I turned to my strangely subdued guide. Is there any chance you could be a dear and get me a bucket of ice? My knuckles seem sore for some reason. The curse of age, reader, it comes for us all.